What is up? Welcome to another edition of SacTown Movie Buffs. Once again, I'm Kier, and this is Jason. And today we are back reviewing a new film that's new. It's playing in theaters, but I don't know how long ago this film was made. It's why I hesitated, because I feel like I've been seeing like trailers for this film since like before the pandemic or something like that, because it kept getting pushed back.
I think we have been.
Yeah. So yeah, this movie is new, but it was probably made like 5 years ago or something. So,
Yeah.
but the film that we were referring to is actually going to be Morbius. And I say, without further ado, I say we get right into it. I'll go ahead and take this one on. So I don't know much about comics. I didn't read, a lot about the backstory. I knew enough about Morbius just from the trailers. But I can't say that I knew of this character. But this character is somehow in the Spider-Man universe of some sort, from my understanding. And that's all I really know about the backstory. So Morbius stars Jared Leto as Dr. Michael Morbius, who was born with like a rare like blood type disease, which kind of leaves him partially paralyzed as a child. Him, and then it's so rare that there's only like a few people, I guess, that really have this type of blood-borne disease. So it's basically him and essentially one of his best friend who also had this disease. His name's Milo, which is played by Matt Smith. And so they were, they're basically spent a lot of time in their hospital. However, Dr. or Michael Morbius has some, he's very intelligent. He's very smart. So he's basically, they were living, I think, in the UK, and he's basically sent to the US, to New York, to basically study, and ends up becoming a doctor. And then as he's a doctor, he's also looking for, cures to help others. And then, obviously, so he's doing a lot of tests, and he finds, the vampire bats basically have these, a certain thing within their mechanism that basically helps fight off like the type of infection that he has. And so he starts doing some experimentation with vampire bats, and basically injects like a pathogen or whatever his concoction is into himself, which does heal him, but of course, unfortunately, also turns him into a vampire. And so Morbius is actually a vampire, but he's a different kind of vampire. He has like superhuman strength. He still needs to consume blood, but he's kind of more in some capacities like a blade type vampire, because he can I think he can walk around in the daytime and things of that nature. So, and then I don't know if like stakes through the heart or anything like that would kill him. They haven't really expounded upon that. So he's constantly conflicted, basically with. In a nutshell, with once he turns into the vampire, there's obviously he's consumed blood, so there's some things that obviously happen early on that would make him seem like he's a bad guy, but he really doesn't want to be a bad guy. He doesn't want. I mean, he wanted to cure people and help people, so he's basically fighting his own internal demons, and basically is drinking synthetic blood and things of this nature so that he doesn't have to attack people. However, and it's not a huge spoiler, his best friend also decides to take the pathogen as well, and has a completely different view on basically that. It's not, not a weird story, because, it's been used before in other Marvel movies and things of that nature, where, one guy gets these superhuman strengths and is, wants to use his powers for good, and the other person gets these superhuman strengths and wants to use his power for bad, or whatever case may be. Thinks you should embrace your bad side, or whatever case may be. And that's kind of in a nutshell the story, without going too much into details. It's a very short film. It's only, I think, like an hour and 44 minutes or something like that. So the runtime is really, really short, which is good, because they kind of basically get straight to the point. They don't take very long before, like most Marvel films that I've seen, the origin story, it's like an hour into the film before they actually even show you what the superhero is going to be, or before they become a superhero. This one wastes, essentially no time. There's, a little bit of backstory, and then, 20 minutes in the film, he's pretty much, Morbius. so I do respect that about the film. Overall for me, it does have some issues. I'm not saying it's a perfect film. I know the reviews were really, really bad for this film, and we can discuss that in a second here. And I think that there's some politics probably involved with that, why this film's so bad, because the audience score is actually relatively good. Like on Rotten Tomatoes, I think it has like an 18% by critics, but audiences gave it like 70, 75%. So people who've seen it seem like they do like it. I'm somewhere in the middle. I didn't necessarily love this film, but I didn't hate it either. I definitely had some issues. There were some editing issues. The story, it wasn't like that original. It felt like some other, unfortunately, Marvel films that I've seen before with origin stories and how that breaks off, or one person, wants to use his power for good and the other person has the same power and wants to use his power for evil, that kind of stuff. So there's nothing really that original about that. But overall, it's not a bad way to spend an hour and 44 minutes, in my opinion. What were your thoughts, Jason?
I liked it. I know it's not a popular film to like for some reason, but like you said, I mean, like, full disclosure, like I don't care about comic books. I don't care about superheroes. I've seen a lot of these movies, so my main criteria is like, do they engage me? And this movie engaged me. It was to me, it was like an hour and 44 minute genre movie. It is like, it's a vampire movie. Is it the greatest vampire movie ever? No. Is it the greatest superhero movie ever? No. But I just appreciated the economy of it. Like you said, it's an hour and 44 minutes. It's to the point. It's a vampire story. I like horror movies, so I like vampire movies. It was fine. It reminded me of the way comic book movies kind of used to be in the 90s, like movies like Blade, movies like Spawn, movies that were like, hour and 45 minutes, a little bit of visual style and like, anti-hero, and then you're done. It's not the greatest thing. It's not the worst thing. It's fine. It's a good way to spend an hour and 44 minutes. Like the economy, to me, this was miles better than, for instance, that latest Spider-Man movie, because that was 2.5 hours. I didn't care what was happening at any point. It was all just fluff. This was not fluff, otherwise in the sense that it's all fluff. I mean, would the world be a better or worse place without Morbius? No, it was fine. But did it engage me? Again, I have no basis in comic books or superheroes, so the 2.5 hour Marvel movies where all they're doing is making connections between all the different storylines and stuff like that makes some people lose their mind with excitement and glee. I just don't care about that kind of stuff. So I care about a good story, well told. And this was a good story, a pretty good story, pretty well told. You know what I mean? So, I like Jared Leto. That's another thing. For a lot of people, that seems to be a strike against already out of the box, because, he's weird or annoying or too method or whatever. I don't know. I've always liked Jared Leto. I thought he was good in this role. This seems one of those movies. Every year, there's a few movies that come out. And whether it's because it took so long to come out or buzz or whatever, it just seems almost predisposed to be hated. You know what I mean? The reviews are going to be bad no matter what. And then everyone's going to dogpile on top of it. And I think this was one of those movies. It was kind of predisposed to be, hated by critics. And so, it happened. But I don't know. I had a good time. The action scenes were pretty good. It didn't bore me. It moved along. It had some visual style. It had a really good action scene in a subway that reminded me of an American Werewolf in London, and I don't think that was unintentional. So I don't know. I'm probably not the best judge, but I had a good time. I enjoyed it more than several of the more long story less Avengers movies, honestly, which are just 2.5 hours of making connections, So I don't know. I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge Marvel guy per se. I mean, I might be a little bit higher on the scale with them than you are, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find anybody that said that this movie was better than that last Spider-Man movie. Even though I didn't necessarily, I didn't go crazy, but I mean that movie is did like $1 billion at the box office and had like, a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, and the audiences were, gave it like a 90% or something like that. I think most people generally love that movie. I know you didn't, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find somebody that actually agrees with that point of view in terms of Morbius being better than, Spider-Man. I don't remember the title, No Way Home or something like that. So
it was a gimmick movie. That's it. Gimmick movie.
Yeah.
Nostalgia bait. That's all.
Yeah, and like I said, and that's why I said we would talk about that as well, because, and not to shift away from Morbius, but yeah, I think that is a kind of a fair point, that I feel like anything that's Marvel that comes out almost automatically is going to do close to $1 billion at the box office. Anything that's Marvel is going to do, because I think Sony produces this or something. Anything that's Marvel is or Disney, anything that's Marvel, Disney, or whatever case may be, is going to do, big numbers. They always get great reviews. But I think, and we've had this conversation before, they all kind of run together for me a lot of times. I can't tell you the difference between, most of the last three Spider-Mans. I can't tell you the difference between, some of the Captain Americas. I can't tell you the difference between a lot of those films, because they all kind of blend and bleed together, and they all have characters from other Marvel universes that come in and pop in. I mean, even the new one with the Doctor Strange, I think he's going to be working with the Witch, and you know what I mean? So there's always like someone else that's involved, and the Doctor Strange was in the last Spider-Man film as well for a good chunk of the movie as well. So I think that's just that's why they all kind of run and bleed together.
And not to go off on a tangent, but he's not in that Spider-Man movie. He's in like the first 20 minutes, and then he pops up again at the end. But he's basically in there at the beginning and go like, "Oops, gotta go." You know what I mean? Like, it's just it's so dumb. Not to get off on a tangent, but I hated that movie. And I liked the other two. I liked Homecoming. I liked the first two, whatever they were. They're all Far From Home and Homecoming. I liked those, so I was looking forward to that new Spider-Man movie. But I firmly believe that a central Marvel movie, not like Sony Marvel, like Canon Disney Marvel, it could come out and it's 2.5 hours of Spider-Man taking a crap, and it would have 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. I guarantee it.
I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with you on that notion, but it's just one of those things. I get what you're saying, and I hear what you're saying. But I would definitely say that you would be in a strong minority to say that this Morbius movie was better than that one. But that's just,
I'm proud to be in that minority. I'll take an hour and 44-minute movie with a beginning, middle, and an end any day.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, anything else that you wanted to add about Morbius specifically?
No. And again, I'm not saying it's the greatest thing ever, but I'm saying that it, and I don't, again, like I always have to say, like, I'm not a Marvel hater. I've liked many Marvel movies a lot, but, it does bother me that anything that's not canon Marvel seems to, or anything that's DC almost, comes out almost like having to prove itself that it even has the right to exist. Whereas a Marvel movie can come out and no matter what, it's going to get like unanimous praise. It seems like, you know what I mean? So that. No,
I agree with you 100%. No, I agree with that sentiment 100%. I definitely feel like, any superhero movie that comes out that's not, Disney, Marvel is going to have, or Disney in general, because we can even say Star Wars or whatever case may be. But, I feel like anything that's like Disney produced, you know what I mean? It just, for some reason, I just feel like even their animated films, they always are just like, super well praised. It's like, it's like half of the, critics are like, in the tank for like Disney produced films, you know what I mean? Because, there are a lot of those films that, unfortunately just aren't that great. But a lot of people seem like they're, it just seems like critics are just always just like gushing over these films. And I'll watch them. I'm like, really? That was pretty mediocre. You know what I mean? Like, really, that's getting a 99%, you know what I mean, on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, you're saying that deserves a 99%. Like,
what's being like virtually indistinguishable from 20 of the other ones. You know what I mean?
Exactly right. And like I said, most of those films aren't going to be, that memorable either. I'm not saying that this necessarily 5 years from now is going to be super memorable, but most of those Marvel films that do $2 billion at the box office, in 10 years, no one's going to care about them because there's already going to be another 10, 20, 50 Marvel films that have come out during that time period that no one's even going to remember those ones. And those new ones are going to break the box office again. You know what I mean? So all those Avenger films, the End Games and all that kind of stuff, all those films are going to be completely forgotten because there's going to be 20 new films that come out that, just dwarf those films. You know what I mean?
It's like the world's most expensive TV show, kind of. You know what I mean? It's just like, the movies are a lot of, that's what bothers me. The ones like, I like a lot of Marvel movies, but I tend to like the ones that are more standalone, whereas a lot of them are like these just like connecting pieces ones, you know what I mean? And to me, I have no interest. I have no interest in that comic book world, so I'm not interested in the connections. And it really is. It's like another episode in a really expensive TV show. If you don't have any care about like the background of the story, then you're just kind of left out to dry. And again, I like a lot of Marvel movies, but it's kind of like the Marvel movies, the central canon Marvel movies, they're kind of like, to me, it's kind of like they're like the jocks and the cheerleaders. You know what I mean? It's like whereas DC and like the Sony kind of Marvel ones are like, they're kind of like the outsiders, the underdogs.
like the edgy, emo. You know what I mean? Like the kids that are wearing all black on the side that no one talks to and associates with and has a conversation with, kind of basically.
Those
are your people.
I identified with.
Those are your people.
They were. Yeah. So I kind of identify with that. But also, I think there's a real point to that, is those movies, whether you like them or not, they have individual style and individual character. Like, I mean, like, there's no confusing, Batman versus Superman and, Wonder Woman. I wasn't even a huge fan of Wonder Woman, but that's different from.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I can easily pick out the differences between each of those films. I mean, there's also not as many of them. That also helps because there's not like 50, 60 characters that you have to try to keep up with, and they keep adding more. Now you have the Eternals and all the other ones that they just keep adding to the universe, to where, I mean, they are killing some of the Marvel characters off in order to add new ones, but it's just hard to keep up with all the different characters that pop in and pop out of Marvel. So I'll agree with you on that too. So
yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't like all this DC movies, but and I don't dislike all Marvel movies. It's just like, as someone who has no real interest in superheroes to begin with, I just got to go with which ones grab me and hold me and keep me interested. And, the ones that I respond to most deeply, I guess I would say, are the DC ones, because they're weirder. They go a little harder. They have more individual style typically. And, I don't know. That's just where my interest is. There's more chance I'll watch those again. You know what I mean?
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, that's a fair point for sure.
Yeah, not pro Marvel. I mean, not pro DC, anti Marvel, or anything like that. It's just like, those tend to be the ones that I respond to the most strongly. So, yeah.
All right.
In fact, what I think is the best Marvel movie ever made is not even an official Marvel movie, and that's Into the Spider-Verse. That, to me, that's the best Marvel movie I've ever seen, and that's not even official canon Marvel. So whatever. I don't know the difference really. Whatever.
Yeah, I'm not that level of nerdum to know all of the differences between those, unfortunately. So no, I'll just leave it at that for sure. No, good point. Cool. Well, overall grade and face you would give this one then?
I gave it a 3.5 out of 5, which is a solid B, which is, I had a good time. So it's I was fine. I wasn't bored. I was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little torn on this one. Like I said, there were some things I definitely liked about this one, but I definitely had some issues. Some of the editing just felt a little funky in some of parts of this film. And I really wish this film was rated R. I don't know.
Yes.
I
I'm with
mean,
you on that.
I feel like I almost have to drop it at half a point just because it's like PG-13, and it felt PG-13 in a lot of instances where I'm like, if this was rated R, they could have really like expanded it and really done something. But I know they were trying to go for box office and bring the kiddies in or whatever case may be. And I don't know when they made this movie if they thought it was going to be, the next big thing. But you look at like Blade 2 or something of that nature. I don't know. I feel like you could have made this one rated R and just made it a little bit more edgy, in my opinion. So unfortunately, I settled on a 2.5 on this one because I just don't know that I would rewatch it. I just feel like, if they make a sequel, I'd probably be down for that, which I don't know. I guess it just depends. I don't know what it did at the box office, but I know the critics panned it, so I'm not for sure. But so like I said, I settled on a 2.5, which for me is, like I said, I always feel like my 2.5s are rated a little bit higher than yours. You pretty much hate it. 2.5 is the worst movie ever.
2.5 means I didn't care for it.
Yeah, 2.5 for me means 2.5 for me means there's a lot there that I liked, but it's probably not something I'm going to rewatch again. So, and that's kind of why I went with that. So I went 2.5. So I'm just going to give it like a slight smile, just like
Yeah.
and kind of leave it at that.
I mean, I wouldn't seek it out to watch again,
Yeah.
But if it was on, I wouldn't mind.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, let us know down in the comments. Have you seen Morbius? Did you like it? Did you not like it? As always, if you like the channel, we ask that you like, subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell notification, and we'll be back again soon with another show for you guys. We thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. Bye.